Feeling that you get from actually making a difference is so amazing. Like, it just trumps anything else. I'm Shia Konai, and I'm a volunteer EMT at the College Park Volunteer Fire Department. I've always been interested in medical stuff, and I always would see the ambulance going past, like, our house, like, or the neighborhood in school, like in elementary school, and I always thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And so when I got older, I decided that it was something I'd want to try before I became like a nurse or a doctor. I guess at some point in time I kind of realized that I wanted to do more for others. When I was in high school, like, I hadn't done any volunteer work really yet, and I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, you know, you're so interested in this medical stuff, you might be good as an EMT. I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool. And I just kind of thought, it didn't really go anywhere for a while. Then it was like, it's probably around like 10th or 11th grade when this happened. And then all of a sudden I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I have no idea why. It just sounds really cool. I wanted to be a medic for a while. I don't think I'd want to do it anymore though, because I love it so much just as volunteer work. I wouldn't want to turn it into a career and then end up hating it. I'm just like so afraid that would happen. So I think I'm gonna stick with like nursing, because I feel like the doctor aspect of it is really cool, because, you know, like you know a lot about pretty much everything in the medical field, but I feel like being a nurse is more personalized, and that's what I like about DMT. Like, you're in charge, you're running the call, but you're the one who's talking to the patient, you're holding their hand if they're scared. You know, you're comforting them, and that's what I want to be a nurse for. Like, I want to be, you know, doing the medical stuff, I want to be doing all of that, but I also want to not be friends with the patient, but I want to be the one that makes them feel better. My favorite story is probably my last precept, which are all the test outs you have to do to ride as an aide, to be in charge of the call by yourself, just you and a driver. And I wasn't aware that I was precepting until the call came out, because my lieutenant decided that all of a sudden he was going to precept me at the last minute. I looked at the printout, and it says hazmat box on there, and that means that there is a gas leak or some sort of hazardous material exposure in the area. And a box is not good, because that means you need like 4 different engines, 3 different specialty units, 4 ambulances, and like 3 medic units. And I have 11 patients that I have to take care of. I had to take care of them, take their vital signs and everything like that on this horrible, like this gigantic, pretty much school bus just filled with stretchers for 11 patients, and this one little girl who was like 9 years old, and they were all Spanish. So they only spoke Spanish except for the one little girl, so I had to have her help translate for me. I passed my precept. He asked me, you know, a million questions like on the way back to the station, and I got them all right. So I actually got turned over as an aide on like one of the hardest calls we had had in years. Favorite part is probably you have no idea what calls actually you're going to show up to, which is really scary, but that adrenaline rush that you get from it is pretty amazing, because I've never felt anything like it before. Like, I've had a call once where we got, it was a call for someone who, I guess the person that saw the guy, he thought he had slipped and just like twisted his ankle like on some steps like outside University of Maryland, like their stadium. Well, we get there, and so we're just thinking the guy has a sprained ankle or, you know, a couple of bumps and bruises, but he actually had a heart attack and fell down some steps. It's terrifying, but like you just kind of like something clicks and you know what to do, and all of a sudden you're like doing these things and you're not thinking about it. And it's actually really cool how much of like the training you like realize sticks with you, and like you got this, and like you could actually potentially be saving someone's life and can make a difference. It's not every single call, but riding all the not so great calls are totally worth that poor patient who actually really needs you, and you actually like saving their life. It just teaches you, like every single call teaches you something new, and it's always a different experience. It's always a different person with new dynamics brought in situations. We had a patient who was she was pregnant. She was only about 3 weeks or couple months pregnant, that's what it was. And she had been having, you know, some bad stomach pains, and so it's like normal, like she's pregnant and, she's a little scared, and I thought maybe this was her first child. Turns out, like, you start asking them questions, and she's already had one child, and then she also had a miscarriage before she had, gotten pregnant with this baby, and those were the same pains that she had had when she had had her miscarriage. So, like, it's like one thing, oh, maybe she's just, ate something weird, no big deal, and you're taking her to the hospital, but then all of a sudden it turns into this whole new thing, like, she could be having a miscarriage again, or something's wrong with her baby, and it turns into, like, instead of, asking her questions and being, like, a cold, like, medical person who had no compassion, like, you're holding her hand, you're telling her, we'll take you to your doctor, he'll take a look at you, and hopefully you'll be okay. Like, it teaches you a lot, like, to be very compassionate towards other people, which I think the society really lacks a lot of the time. So it brings so much new experience into your life. I think it'd be worth it for people to at least just go on an ambulance and just, like, observe a call. For a while, through the beginning training I had to go through just at the fire station, not actually getting my EMT certificate, I was getting really frustrated with it because the training, that program that they have in place at that station is really hard, but they just want you to know what you're doing, and they want to be able to actually trust you and feel like if we send you out into the field, you're going to make our station look good by doing everything you're supposed to. I get really nervous really easily, and this being an EMT has kind of like, it's helped me kind of control that, because it's like I realize how much more I can actually do than I thought I could before. But before that call, or when I was on that call, I walk onto the scene, I see 11 patients sitting down, we're all trying to get oxygen masks on them to help them breathe because of the poisoning, and then my EMS lieutenant says, we're going to be taking all these patients in a medical ambulance bus, and I just kind of wanted to sit down in a ball and cry because I was so scared. Like, it was very overwhelming. There were so many people on scene, but then something like snapped inside my head. I'm like, well, let's get this done and we'll see how it goes from there. And then ever since then, I would never, like, stop doing it. Like, it's just the most amazing feeling ever.